I'm gonna go ahead and get started recording it. All right, so in the past, for giving access to your team members of different report areas, you had these kind of chunks, and you could give them access to maintenance, and it would be all of maintenance, for instance, or quality for all of quality. And you did that under form security. You'd go in and you'd pick your role, and you'd give access to one of those, and that's what would make this section show up where they could then click maintenance. This will go away completely. So we talked last time about how to administer access to reports. I'm going to cover that again, but you'll see in the next updates that there won't be a report section in here anymore for people to access. And from an admin standpoint, you will no longer go into form security to give access. What you're going to do to give access will be within the reports area, you might say. So as an admin, it'll all transfer over. So anything that you already gave access to team members to, that still will all be there. So you won't need to do anything different with that. But going forward, to give access, you have a couple different ways. So from your reports section here, one is if I want to give the whole folder. So just like before, if you wanted to give the whole continuous improvement section to somebody or to a group of people, you can, go in. So let's just open this up once and I'll show you. We'll just actually do this. So I might come in here and take the continuous improvement section, open that up, and I can see the different folders that are within it. I can share that whole folder, or I could share subfolders. And so there's a couple different options on that. One second here. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways. So, hey Scott, I might come back to on the right clicking of sharing of the whole thing, and I have Chrome and Edge open here. Hang on, give me 1 second. All right, I'm going to come back to this. Hang on.
Hey, Jamie.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an administrator account or in the administrator role, but if you weren't the creator of that folder, is probably why you're not able to do that. Like the Kale and Jamie one, you can actually share and administer because you actually made it.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So here's how these are going to work, these same ones from the administrator role, and this will be with the update that's going to roll out. So I'll do it on this example. To Scott's point, I wasn't the owner of my current login here, isn't the owner of these, so I wasn't able to, but I am the owner of this Kale and Jamie one. So what you would do is if I wanted to share this, so if I'm a system admin, which will be the owner of these ones, they can do what I'm going to show you here. So you'd right click is one option on the folder, and this is where you can do the folder sharing. So we looked at this last week, but I could share this folder, and when you bring it open, it has some new features in it that weren't there before. You can come in here and share with a specific user, or you can share with a role. So before you couldn't do it down to the user level, you could only do a role. But this is how you do kind of the traditional way is the role. Here's a specific user. But then the other feature is you can decide of them, who do you want to make the owner of it. So maybe somebody's going to leave the company and you want to change who owns the reports, or maybe just want other people, once you set it up, to be the one that administers those reports. So this is how you'd adjust those folders. It'll default. So if I add a user in here, if I add myself and say I want to give access to this, you'll notice it defaults to a view only, where they can't edit it or update it or delete it. If you want to change that, you can edit it and edit the buttons. So that's one way that you can do that. Another way is you can actually open a specific report. So if I'm the owner of a report, if I come in here and say I have a project report, and we'll say it's a CI project. From here, I can also come in here and say share a specific report. So I could come in here and configure this report. I'm going to go to permissions. And again, I can share this specific report. there's no need to share a specific report if it's underneath a folder. So if we go back to where we were before, if you're sharing folders, if that's your process, once you share this whole folder, anything that you put underneath it will then be visible to who it's shared with. So
hey,
a little bit of a different way. Go ahead.
Hey, Jay, I'm just going to interrupt once. So the clarification on why that, so everyone understands this, and this is normal for how, even before how form security and reports are managed. So you're in under Thrive Demo, which isn't actually the admin account, but the original administrator account has access to everything, which then can distribute that permission. So now if you see on the continuous improvement folder, under the administrator account, I made you an owner of that folder, so now you can manage it. You see that CI folder there is now one that you could also continue to share and manage. And that's normal behavior. It always starts at the administrator account, and then you have to delegate permissions from that account to other users. So that's why that you weren't able to share that previously.
Great, thanks, Scott. The other thing that you can do is the same concept administratively. Now you can actually share dashboards. So when a dashboard is built, you'll notice, and I don't think this was here last month when we looked at it, but you have your reports here, and I can look at my dashboards here. And what a nice feature is I can come in here to quality, and I can hit the little drop down, and I can see what reports are on my quality dashboard. I can drag and drop them from over here into here if I want. But the sharing concept works the same way. So if I'm the owner of this, which in this case I am, I can take and come in here to this dashboard, and I can share a dashboard with individuals. And it's the same concept as what reporting is. You'll notice it's identical. You can allow people different access to view or to change. But this is where you can now share dashboards. All right. The other changes now I want to talk through, so that's some admin stuff along with the latest update. The other thing I want to look at is how do you access reports? So obviously I said that the report section was going to go away in the menu, which is true. You'll notice, again, on this latest update that you'll have something different on your homepage. In the past, you had to scroll through. We got feedback that really that scroll through isn't necessary. It also kind of bogs down or can slow down your homepage access. So you'll notice now, along with these drops and these close and expand, you'll see your dashboards from here. So I can look and see what dashboards I have. I can see which reports are in that dashboard. So if I want to open that dashboard, I can do it right from this section. Same thing with reports. It's going to show all of my reports in here, and I can do the same thing. I can open them up and choose which one I want to pick. So this functionality that I just showed you is the same functionality if I come to this drop down by my name, is reports and dashboards. And so, both of those will function the same way. If I click reports, it's going to take us to the example we were just looking at, where I see my dashboards on the right, my reports on the left, and can build them out. So that's a little bit of a change on the homepage. We've got some feedback from the users that have implemented that they really like it. I think it brings, this tree in particular will bring some nice consistency, so you can see your dashboards and what reports are there. Obviously, you can open them up and view it just like you could before. All right, we're going to go into some information on report building now. So that's admin and how I access reports or how I open reports. Oh, actually, before I do that, let's go look at one other way you can access reports that's new. So if I go in here to quality, and we talked about this last time, but I'll just bring it up as a reminder. If you go into whatever area you have access to, so in this case, I'm going to go to quality projects. And in the past, again, you'd have had to go out of here to get to reports. But as you share that any quality reports with people, a user would be able to also access reports from this list. So you'll notice in the little drop down in here where you used to go in, or you still go in and change your column layout, there's now something in here called open reports. And what this is going to do is open up any reports that are associated, in this case, with quality projects. So you'll notice in the Kale and Jamie folder that you saw before, it had a whole bunch of things. It had CI in there and maintenance. Well, now you're only seeing within that folder anything associated with quality tables, you might say, behind the scenes. So if I want to look at quality reports quickly and I don't want to go back out and around to it, I can click here and I can see any, quality projects that I have shared with me. So just another quick way to access reports associated with the area that you're working in. All right, so now let's go open up an actual report. So let's say we're in here and we want to just start a new one. So you guys many of you who have worked with reports before, you've gotten used to, and it's still a great way to do reports, is to go find one that you like and just open it up, save it as a new one, and use it as a starting point. So that feature, that way that you're used to doing it, is still there today. That doesn't change at all. But we've added some new ways to build reports. And that's this tab right next to reports called New Report. And you have a couple options. You can pick from a template, or you can start from scratch. The pick from the template, I guess, is what I would recommend if you're planning to build something. And for those that are more seasoned maybe at report building, or have some familiarity with some tables, or like to play around, the start from scratch is also an option that I'll go through briefly. But pick from the template. This is going to allow you to have some templates that weren't there before. So you'll notice when it says pick from the template, you can just start typing a search and find it. Or if you don't know, you might come in here and say, well, I know I want to build something. Maybe it's a safety report. And you'll notice it brings up some safety templates. And these are meant to give you an idea of what is it I'm trying to do. So I just want a general safety one. Or maybe it has to do with project labor or parts, or you get the idea. You can see there's been some audit ones in the past. Somebody might say, well, I'm looking for audit results, and I don't see any canned ones in the system. So where do I start? So this is a way that you can start. You can come in here and say, I want to look at safety audit results. And what you'll notice is it's going to pull behind the scenes some information that is irrelevant to you, other than it's pulling tables. It's generating some information. So you're just going to have to click safety audit results, create report. And what this is going to do is pop open a screen that's going to say, what fields do you want to load first? And so these are your text fields down below. So this is where you can come through and decide which ones of these do I want to pick that I want. And just like all the other areas, you can drag and drop, or you can use these arrows to move it over. One thing you're going to notice, occasionally you'll come across this. There's two of them here that say comments. And you'll think, well, why am I getting two of them that say comments? And it's because you're pulling information from multiple areas of the system. And so to know which comment you want, you'll notice when you hover over these, it has some different, it pulls up what the field is. So in this case, it's pulling off of the project comments. And when I hover over this one, it's pulling off of the task comments. So for those of you that have used tasks, in this case, those are the details of the audit. You might say, oh, I want the comments from the task level. Well, then you can pull that one over and know that you're pulling the right information. So this would be your starting point. You'd pick whatever fields you want. You're going to hit update. And what you'll notice is it's going to pull in those fields, right, with some data that means something to you. And then from there, you'd go about building a report just like you would in the other areas of Thrive. You can come in and configure your report. You can pick, what is it that I want my category or my x-axis to be? What is it I'm trying to total? We went through some of that last month, but just wanted to show you the way that you can go about creating some reports that you couldn't before, really around using these templates that are there. So we think that'll be powerful for areas that maybe there isn't a canned report and it's just a brand new starting point for you. You can go ahead and use those. All right, Jackie, I saw that question. We'll come back to that at the end. The other way you can do this, and this is really if you're more advanced, or maybe there's some custom work that's been done for you guys on your system and there's not a template already started. Or sometimes we start templates for you, and this is also how we would go about it. So we come into this start from scratch, and what this does is it says, what tables are you wanting? And for many of you, this part of this is going to be irrelevant. You're not going to use this, but for others it might be. And so it might be that, well, I know I want something to do with vendors. And so you can start typing in, and it's going to look at any table behind the scenes and show you, oh, what are all my vendor tables? So, you may or may not know which of these you're wanting. If you do know, this is going to kind of narrow it down for you. If you have no idea, then probably the best thing is to keep the process today, is allow us to build a template for you, and then you can go in and change it, edit it, make it relevant to whatever it is you're doing. But this is a tool that's going to allow somebody to do this. Maybe it's a part vendor table, and you say, well, I also want something else from the part table. So you can start typing part and say, oh, well, there's my part table. And you'll notice when you do this, and I'm just going through this again for people who are more seasoned at doing this, you'll notice it created your join statement automatically for you. The part it doesn't do is say, what fields are you wanting to tie together? So again, those that have built these before would know, well, I know I want the part ID. So this is where you'd come in where the field name is, and you'd type in whatever it is you want, part ID, or maybe it's just ID. And the same thing here then for your part, right? You'd say, well, I want these two to line up. And that's how you create, and then you hit create report, and that begins to build it out. So this is where you can do some custom stuff. But most of you, if you're looking to start, a new one, the easiest way, and what most people will do, is find one that's similar, save it as a new report, and jump off of that. If that doesn't work, you can come in here and pick a template. And if you're getting really advanced, you can do start from scratch. So a few different ways to build reports that you didn't have before, and that we wanted to walk through today. All right, let's go in and open up. Let me find a good project. Let's go in and open up an actual report. And now let's look at some features associated with it. I'm going to grab one out of the projects. So here's CI projects by category as an example. And it doesn't really matter, obviously, which one. All these features are the same, whatever report you have. But want to walk through some different features. So a couple of ways that you can kind of customize, personalize your report. And that's done through the configure report button. So like we talked about last month, you pop that open. This is really into 3 sections. So if I minimize this at a high level, you have your report properties, which the primary thing you're going to do here is if you wanted to give permissions to a specific report, you could use this section. But generally speaking, you're not going to be using the report properties. What you're going to be using is the chart and the text. And so if I want to go into the chart section first and show a few different features that are in here. One, in this case, the chart totaling. So right now we're totaling the ID. If I click on the chart total, you'll notice it opens up, and I'm going to make my screen a little bigger here. You'll notice it opens up and it has the ID field in here. So when we built this, we drug that field over and we're doing something. If I click on the ID, it's going to tell me what I'm doing. So in this case, it's a distinct count. If I wanted to sum it up, I can click on the arrow and do a sum or an average. You have some different options in there, but in this case, it's a distinct count. There's a button here that says more options. If I click on that more options, it's going to open up some additional fields. One is you can see a summary name, where in this summary name, you can go in and label it, you might say. And so when you hover over it or you put a legend on, this is what would be showing up. Your y-axis, if you want to label an axis, this is where you can go into your axis and label it. So I might come in here and you can see that it says number of projects right now. Well, maybe I don't want it to be that. Hang on a second, I lost internet. Okay, I'm back. Can everybody hear me? Or Scott, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, I'm gonna go back into that configure report. All right, we're gonna go back into our access. All right, so in here, this is where you can label it. So right now it's called number of projects. You can probably see it in the grayed out behind me, number of projects. If I wanted to change that to something else, this is where you can change that. Another thing that you're gonna wanna do on this x-axis sometimes is you'll notice here, it has 0, 50, 100, up to 300. This is where if you wanna control a min and a max, so I always want this, especially on percentages, it might be, I want it between 50 and 110 or whatever. You can control your mins and max on that access. And then in this format section, this is where if you click on it, it opens up with some different options. You might do number, percent, date, time. The other thing that you'll do here is you'll notice it has a 0 and colon and 0. Occasionally, if your numbers are really small, let's say it's 0 to 5, and so you might have something that's 1.2 and 1.3 and it's decimals, you can also come in here and change your 0 to a 1 or a 2, and that's going to control your decimals for things that you're trying to track at a at a decimal level. So a couple features there under that access. Another one that you'll know, and we talked about this one last time, but I want to go through it again because it can be super powerful if you're looking at goals. So if you come in here to targets and goals, you'll notice that you can put some ranges in here. So you might come in and say from 0, and in this case we have high numbers, so I'm going to say from 0 to 100. I want the color to be, this is number of projects. So maybe I want to say I have to do at least 100 projects. So if it's under 100, I want it to be red. And then I might add another one and say from 100 to whatever, 500, I'll say, I want it to be green. And so I can save that information in here. And it's always going to come back to this screen in case you did anything else and say, do you want to update it? So in this case, I want to update it. And now you'll notice that my report from 0 to 100 is red. Anything above 100 is green. So if you're wanting to build goals or, banding, you might say, of are we in the range we want to be? Are we accomplishing what we want? That's what that goal information is going to do. And again, that's if you come in here under the chart area for your totals, you're going to click on whatever you're totaling, and it'll open up some additional options. You can hit more options. I already had done that, so it's still open, but you're going to come down here to targets and goals. So that's that feature we wanted to walk through. Another one that's in the reporting under the charts that you might find of interest is there's a section called Other Options. When you click on Other Options, and we didn't talk about this much last time, but there's a few things that you can do in there. One of them is refresh every. And so what this is going to do is if you have a report on a dashboard, this will allow this report, or even if it's not on the dashboard, but a lot of times people will want this on a dashboard, is I have it on a dashboard and I want it to refresh automatically every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes or whatever it is. This is where you can come in and choose how often do you want this to refresh. And what it's going to do is behind the scenes go in and essentially refresh, which grabs all the new data or any data points that have come in that last 5 minutes and update my chart. So in the past, there's been some workarounds that people have done on their dashboards. This will allow your reports to refresh automatically based upon whatever number you put in here. You can also do some exporting of the chart image. This is helpful for people doing some PowerPoints, or if you have some other reason you want to just export the image of this chart, it's a way that you can do that. So a couple features in there you can take a look at. Another feature, and this isn't new, but I want to point it out because if you haven't used it before, it's really powerful, and we have a lot of newer people on this webinar today. And that's this top chart. So you can see right now, this chart is built with the top 10. If I uncheck that, one thing you'll notice is it'll change, right? So the information that was showing changed because of how I have it set up. And if I go behind here, you'll see the other one. So there's the other one. It put them in a different order, basically. And the reason to put it in a different order is if you do this top, it's going to go highest to lowest, or, you know, if you do the bottom, it's going to do it the other way around. So a lot of times in reports, if you want to see your highest thing here, or almost like creating a Pareto chart of issues, you can come in here. You know, you can change this number. I don't want to see top 10. I want to see my top 100 or whatever it might be. You can do that. So you can choose how you want to set that up, but that's what this is doing, is puts it in some order for you if you haven't used that before. The other feature that is new that wasn't here before is you can match up your text information. So, you know, the reporting will allow you automatically to click a bar and it'll drill down to itself, or you can do custom drill downs, which we'll probably get into even in more detail on another webinar. But some of you are used to that. But the thing that you couldn't do before is match your data down here to your information in your chart. And that one's actually under the text area because you're wanting to line up your text. Under other options, there's a button there called Sync Report Data with Top Chart. So you can sync this up to your top, which is a new feature that you can click on and off as well. One other feature I want to point out while I'm looking at the text information here is there's a display type. So the old reporting, the information was a little tighter down here. So the data didn't have quite as much white space, is maybe a way to say it. Well, you can choose that how you want in the new one. So you can do a standard one, which is maybe a little bigger, or you can change that text to be compact. So you can see how it adjusted it there to a compact text. So if you're using this, or you have a personal preference on the way you like that, in the past, you know, everybody has a little different feel how they like it. This gives you the option to choose on this report how you want to see it. All right, last thing that I want to show you under some features, I'm going to turn it back over to Scott, is on text reporting, you can also rename fields. So you see down here, it says project number, and it's just going to pull whatever's in your system. But when it comes to reporting, you might choose to look at it a little bit differently. So you can open up those fields. You can go to this project number, for instance, and you can say, I want to look at more options for it. And when you do that, it's giving you information on what's the field behind the scenes. And then it's going to also automatically populate the column name the same as the field, which what that does kind of behind the scenes is it's going to name it whatever you've named it in your system. So in this case, we had it named project number. And so that's what it did. But if I want to override that, I can come in and say, I want to change it to, maybe it's just number. Let's just do something even smaller. And I can hit update. And then now you'll notice down below in my actual text, it just says number. So it's going to default to your category names. But if for some reason in your reporting you want to change titles, you can do that in that method. So I'm going to turn the screen over to Scott. He's going to show a couple new things. We're running a little bit behind schedule, but it'll still leave plenty of time for Q&A.
Yep. So as soon as there we go. Okay. So I'm going to share a couple things that have been requested. One of them was really a transitional item, and that was colors. So if you had called out some colors before in the old reports, those did carry over. So if you had a common one we'd often see is people would call out red or green or something like that. And that information carried over, but it wasn't manageable in the newer reporting, meaning it would show up, but there was no way for you to actually to modify that. But that's been added back in, and where you're going to find that is it's in the area where you and some of you may have played with this, where you can pick different chart themes or skins, I guess, if you want to call them. And but beneath that is the option to actually change the color palette. So that's one of the changes that'll be in this next update. And what that allows you to do in this case, I had called out the first two colors. The rest of the palette, the chart will continue to determine on its own. And so you'll see that this one is blue, but the first two colors I chose were red and green. It's just like some of the other options that you've seen, advanced charting options, where you have this little dialog that comes up and you can manipulate those items. So in this case, I got red, green. Maybe I want my next color to be this. And you just pick the kind of the order of your color palette, and then it's going to change those. Within that, if you just want to go back to whatever the default was, you can hit reset, which clears that color palette, and then that allows this to take over again, the color theme. But then again, and then you'll see what that color palette looks like for that. But then you can clear that out, and then you can continue to retain those colors if you want, or add to it or change them. Related to that, I'll show one that has a little bit more going on with it. So this color palette, I guess, this is the same concept. It's defaulted right now to just whatever was within that, but I can add more colors. This just shows it probably a little more than the last one does because of the abundance of colors. And I think one of the challenges we found pretty quickly, probably not so much with this chart type, but maybe let me see if I can even cause this to happen here. We'd see it a lot with the pie charts in the new update, where if I had something like this, where the colors would run into each other. In fact, you'd end up with like green next to green or something, so it's a little bit difficult. And so people would experiment with changing this. Well, now you can do that on your own. If you're running into colors that are bumping into each other, you can just start adding your own colors to help alleviate that problem if for some reason you're having some issues with like a pie chart. Pie chart was probably the best example of where some of those colors would lay out next to each other. So that's a change. Another one. So since there's people are leveraging the dashboard sharing quite a bit, and that's beneficial in the sense that when you create a dashboard, you share it with someone, they see it exactly as you're seeing it. So that was something lacking in the old dashboards and reports and in the older version of reporting. One of the things that people quickly started asking for, and really it did come up in the past, but wasn't really possible the way the old reporting worked very well. And that's if let's say I make a dashboard and it's targeted towards a user, meaning it's my assignments, it's my projects, my requests, and I make that, it works great for me, and I share it with someone else. Of course, in today's world, if I make it for Scott and say, show me where assigned to is Scott, show me where requested by is Scott, and share that, they're going to see just my stuff, which isn't useful for them. Areas where I could think this might be relevant is like if you have, let's say, maintenance technicians, and you make a convenient dashboard for them to see their summary of work or history of work or today's assignments, and then you want to share that with them. The problem is it's going to show up with however you made it, which is if you made it assigned to Scott, that's not useful to them. So in this case, and I popped up just an example in our test system here of this is Zeta. And this is looking broadly just at assignments, real basic report. There's not much here. And this is just assigned project work. The problem is, and so I could do this, I could say, show me where assigned to is equal to Zeta. And that will narrow down to just Zeta's assignments. In this case, it's me. So that's great. And if I share this with someone, however, it's going to appear as just to Zeta. But if you want to make it more flexible, and we have right now, this is something that we're going to find ways to document this kind of stuff. But the way you can do it is if you say is equal to current user. And what that does, is that will filter on whoever is viewing the report currently. So in this case, because I'm Zeta and it looks at current user, it's going to be me. But if I then share this with somebody else, it's going to be theirs. So it really helps in distributing a report that is targeted towards a specific user and saves time and energy trying to distribute those kind of reports and having other people having to make filters to do that. Now, if I clear this, and maybe I'll answer Jackie your question too earlier on filtering a little bit in a second here, because I think this is related. If I go back to how this was here, which is everybody, if I also wanted to see like Ryan's, for example, here, I can still do it where I'd say assigned to is one of, oops, is one of, and I could do Ryan. And I can also still do current user. So it really just becomes part of another thing you can do within the filtering mechanism. It could be requested by is equal to current user is one of. And so when I do this now, it should pull up anything of Ryan's or Zeta's. So you really end up treating it like it's another user or another variable in what you're building as far as reports go. Jackie, you had a question on, and I think it's related, and I'll cover it at this time, I think, related to filtering. How do you filter on the fields you've selected? And this is kind of how you do that. So I threw this report together quickly. In this case, I didn't even include the column status, but let me grab that. So I had status. And when I first made this, this was looking at a significantly greater number of assignments. And one of the first things I did is filter on that. I did not want to see closed assignments. And so to do that, I clicked my filtering here. And this should flow very much like if anyone's built reports in other parts of Thrive, where you'll see the fields that you have available over here, and they're usually grouped by the portion of Thrive that they're in. This case is task items, which is assignments. That's the only thing I have here. Find the field you're looking for. In my case, it was status, and then you just build the criteria you want and in this case, I just said is not equal to closed, but you could do is not one of and say is not one of closed or complete, for example, is probably a common thing. And that got even a little smaller, so it went down to 152. And you can filter on multiple fields. Yeah.
Scott, can you give a quick refresher to them on the filtering on the left and the right and the difference in when you would use, what the use case is for each?
You bet, that's a good question. So standard filtering, excuse me, this is, as I'm hovering over it, it kind of gives you that hint. So it does say fixed criteria that the report only the report owner modifies and also isn't impacted by drill down. So where that would be is if, so if I'm making this report and when users look at this, I want this to be absolute, like they have to look at only things that aren't closed or complete, and I'm making this report, I'm going to put that criteria in here. And then that way, when they open it up, they can modify this potentially, where they could make some more flexible changes like I just did. So like if I'm Zeta and somebody else had made this for me, maybe they've already applied some criteria, but then now I might come in and say, well, I want to see just mine. And so as assigned to is equal to, and in this case, I might just say Zeta, but that's how that can be used. So this is more flexible on the left. This is set by the report creator initially, and also isn't impacted by drill down. So another case where that would be is if you are looking at, let's say it's downtime by department, and then when you drill down, you want to drill down to downtime by equipment. When I drill down, it'll apply the department to that next level report, but on the equipment level, if I'd already filtered out here, same thing like closed or completed work orders, if I wasn't looking at those, or maybe I'm only looking at those, that still applies in the downtime report. So this is not impacted by chart drill downs. I'm not sure what this tooltip says here, but oh yeah, filtering that can be modified by other users and overridden by drill down. So that's kind of the difference between those. And some that may not make immediate sense just talking about it. It starts to make sense though as you use them, why you'd want to use those, because sometimes when you're drilling down, you don't want the drill down to affect certain criteria. So I think that's all I had. Should we open it up to questions, or Jamie? I'll turn it back to you, and then you can take it over.
That sounds good. I'll answer Jackie. It looks like there's another question that came in to the chat window. One of the question is really around if I'm building a report and I'm looking for a field to be in the text or somewhere in the report, but I don't find that field, what do I do? And that would be because it's not in that table. So if in that case, it's usually if something's not started off right on your template, then what would happen is you wouldn't be finding the field that you want. So that'd be an example of, holler at us, send something into support@leantech.com, or if you're working on a custom project, call your point person on the custom project and they can help get you, started better with that. But that's the reason. is it's not the right tables that you're looking at for that report.
I
Good
see
question.
I see a question too there from Nathan about, and I don't know that I 100% understand. I think I kind of get it. We're essentially at the top of a column. You might have like a quick filter on like a, you know, the title, those data filters basically on an Excel spreadsheet, which we've experimented with different things. Nathan, I think it might make sense too, just to understand how you want to use it a little bit, and then see what's possible from a Thrive reporting technology standpoint to pull off in that arena. And I imagine it's so that they can filter what they see on the screen without having to mess with the filtering mechanism itself, is maybe what your goal is there. But probably be worth the conversation just to understand a little bit better.
Yeah. Today's world, without, it would be, they would click on the filtering, like Scott was showing.
Another question about, is there a user manual? There is not currently a user manual. Our intent, so right now all we've done is shared out some of our webinar information about this. We have a script written for a number of videos to kind of go through this, and there probably won't necessarily ever be a user manual per se. I'd say it'd be more driven by, our goal is to have some contextual report videos within this, so that if you're in reporting and you need help, you could pop up like, hey, how do I build a chart, and have a quick video to walk you through that. I would say that's the direction it'll go versus a manual per se. I think it'll be largely video driven.
And those will get loaded out on docs.leantech.com, where we have our other videos and informational. Right now, there's enough changes going that we've been kind of rolling out the training this way, with the documents to be following here, or the videos to be following here shortly.
So this video will be recorded, or has been recorded, and will be available on our YouTube channel. So that'll be another opportunity until we get the more condensed training. There's another question popping up here from Abby. Is there a way to view users by name versus their employee ID in the report table? And I happen to know Abby uses a lot of custom applications, so that could be a little bit related to that. But in general, Thrive manages in the database based on employee ID. The updated report tool that she doesn't currently have, but will be loaded here in the next couple of weeks, does take advantage of the standard mechanism within Thrive, which we call field properties, so that any field that has an employee ID in it will then show in the format of ID with the full name beside it. So you won't have to add that to the report separately. It'll just be that way. There are ways to change the default mechanism. If that's something that you need, you'll have to contact us. It's more of a customization, but that is coming as you get the later versions of the Thrive reporting tool. You'll see more of the manner in which information is displayed in your normal forms will also display in the reporting tool in that same way.
Jamie, if you wouldn't mind sharing it back with me real quick, I'm gonna share something related to that.
You bet. Here's an image of what that looks like, Abby.
Yeah, that's perfect. Actually, so in the old reports, you would have had to have told the access to display their ID and their name and all that stuff. And in the new reports, it figures that out. If you say show me by assigned to, it automatically puts their first and last name. So the goal there was to save some of the pain that I think Abby's alluding to, where you get a report group by assigned to, but you wouldn't know what that number, who that person was. But now it should pull in first and last name, or pull in their name automatically.
So if you're not seeing that, anybody that's looking at the new reporting, it's probably because you don't yet have the latest update. So sometime in mid-June is when that took effect.
All right, well, let's go ahead and open it up. What other questions does everybody have, or thoughts, especially those that have been using it, feedback, whatever you guys want to talk about or on reporting?
I will say there's been a lot of feedback, which has been really nice. helped us to refine some things and tweak some things. And some of them aren't as obvious when we go through these demos, but there's been a lot of fine tuning with some things that users have requested.
Those that are using the new one, any feedback on things you like or things that you want to see improved? All right. Scott, Cale, anybody have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Oh, appreciate the attendance.
All right. What?
I was just saying I appreciate everybody that was in attendance for taking time out to visit with us today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
See ya.